goddess of love, Venus, Aphrodite, arrived on Olympus quite late. A smiter of hearts and the bane of the mighty, this goddess of love you could hate. The goddess of love, Venus, Aphrodite, she showed us that love could be cruel. Some called her a tyrant and some called her flighty, but no one would dare call her fool. It's hard to find something to love in proud Venus, except for her form and her feature. It can't be denied that her crimes were quite heinous. She was a despicable creature. So, how do we love the fair goddess of love? Well, I figured we'd have to confer with the voices of those here on earth and above, of the men and the gods who loved her. So first I will tell of the one god she wed, and then I will tell of the man, and then there's her son who felt both love and dread. Then you decide if you're a fan.
My name is Hephaestus, the blacksmith of the gods, and I never wanted to have anything to do with Aphrodite.
And my name is Ares, the god of war, and I wanted her from the moment I set eyes on her.
She was the most beautiful of the gods, and I was the ugliest. It was not what you would call a match made in heaven.
She and I were made for each other. She with her come-hither glances, me with my rugged good looks.
You see, I'd been thrown out of Olympus on the very day I was born. My mother, Hera, queen of the gods, but this was before she married Zeus and became queen, she took one look at me, saw that my legs were all withered and my hips were all twisted, and my eyes and my nose and my mouth all seemed to be set in the wrong places on my face, and she was disgusted by me and embarrassed that she had given birth to such a deformity. So she picked me up by my heels and hurled me off of the top of Mount Olympus and into the sea. Being a god, I remember all this. Can you imagine how traumatizing that was?
Yeah, if my mother done something like that to me, I'd have hated women for the rest of my immortal life.
But I didn't hate women, and that's because I was saved by Thetis, the goddess of the sea. And she didn't see my ugliness and my deformity. She saw me for my worth. She recognized both my strength and my gentleness. She recognized both the power and the delicacy of my hands. And she nurtured me under the sea for the first 9 years of my life, during which time I made her many beautiful gifts.
Yeah, Hephaestus and his fancy gifts. He built Apollo's chariot, Hermes' winged sandals, Zeus's lightning bolts. He even built the bronze palaces of the gods up on Olympus.
But I made delicate things as well. Fine jewelry laced with magic.
Yeah. Watch out for Hephaestus' magic. Oh, okay, here's the story about Hephaestus' magic. See, Hephaestus was always making stuff and sending it up to Olympus, gifts for us gods, trying to kiss up so we let him back in. But we just took the stuff and laughed at him behind his back. So this one time, he makes us all thrones, and they are absolutely beautiful. A throne for each of us. It was so cool. We love thrones. We deserve thrones. So we all kicked back on our new thrones, checking each other out, see who could look the most impressive. Just a little sidebar here. I won that contest. When it comes to impressive, I am the guy. And then we all get up and go to dinner, but Hera just sits there. And Zeus says, "Hey, Hera, you better get into dinner. The ambrosia's getting cold." And she says, "I can't get up." So they call me over, because I'm the strongest, and I try with all my might to lift her up out of the throne, but she won't budge. And then Hermes figures it out. He says, Hephaestus must have worked some magic into Hera's throne. He's probably the only one who can get her out. And Zeus says, "Well, don't just stand there, fleet-footed messenger of the gods. Go get Hephaestus and bring him up here." So Hermes splits, returns about 15 minutes later, empty-handed. Yes, he came and said I had to come and set my mother free. I said to him, "I have no mother." "Oh, boo, I have no mommy." What a baby.
She had always denied that I was her son.
Big deal. We all knew the truth. We're gods, for crying out loud. We know everything. So anyway, I got really mad, and I went down there myself to drag the little crybaby up to Olympus.
And how did that work out for you?
You threw lightning bolts at me.
They weren't lightning bolts, they were just fiery brands.
Well, they felt like lightning bolts, so
None of you were ever as strong as I was. You were all soft from lack of good, honest work.
yeah, but you couldn't resist old Dionysus, the god of debauchery, could you?
No, he brought wine. I do love wine.
So, Dionysus parties down with him for a couple hours. Hephaestus passes out. Dionysus throws him over the back of his donkey, carts him on up to Olympus.
And when I woke, there I was, in the palace of the gods, finally, and there was my mother, the grand queen of the gods. But she didn't look so queenly, even sitting in the beautiful new throne I'd made for her. And Zeus said that if I set her free, I could have anything I asked for. But I didn't care about all that. Hera looked so sad that I pitied her. So I went to her and I said, "Just tell the truth. Am I your son?" And she said, "Yes." And I released her.
Yeah, well, that's a very touching story, but there was something else going on that night as well. See, a new goddess had just arrived on Olympus. She had been born of the sea and had come ashore on the island of Cyprus. And where she stepped, flowers had sprung up around her feet.
Yes, Aphrodite.
Yeah, Aphrodite, and she was hot. And all of us gods were bachelors. Well, except for Zeus, and I think even he had his eye on her. Now Zeus knew that there was going to be trouble between us gods over this newcomer, so he figured he better marry her off to one of us and end the trouble before it started. But how was he going to choose between Apollo, Hermes, Poseidon, and me? I mean, I should have been the obvious choice, right? But Zeus just didn't see it that way. And suddenly, there's this big, ugly, deformed god among us. Not even in the same league as the rest of us. And Zeus figures if he gives Aphrodite to him, he won't be favoring one of us big-time gods over the other. See, that's what Zeus was thinking when he told Hephaestus he could have anything he asked for if he set Hera free. So, as soon as Hera was out of the throne, Zeus said, "Okay, Hephaestus, which of these goddesses would you like to have for your wife?" Obvious answer, right? Wrong. Hephaestus asks for Athena. Athena? Even I didn't want Athena, and she was the goddess of war.
She was also the goddess of wisdom, a goddess of grace and integrity. We could have had long talks together about art and philosophy. But Zeus whispered in my ear, "Don't be a fool, Hephaestus," he said to me. "One-upmanship is what we do around here. If you want to make it on Olympus, you must grasp this opportunity. All the other gods want Aphrodite. If you take her, you've got a leg up on the competition." Zeus is a hard god to say no to, so I took Aphrodite for my bride.
Yeah, big-time wedding. None of the rest of us gods even attended.
It wasn't much of a marriage, either. She slept late and I got up early to go to my forges and work. I'd come home tired and hungry and she'd be out partying or gallivanting around Earth somewhere, so I'd be asleep by the time she got home, and then I'd be up and out in the morning before she got up.
Yeah, and can you imagine how lonely that must have been for poor Aphrodite? So I, being the gallant warrior that I am, would keep her company. We'd take long walks on my battlefields together. We'd spend hours talking on the phone about our feelings. I'd go hang out drinking tea on the couch with her at her and Hephaestus' palace. Yes, I heard about how you would hang out at my palace when I was gone. I heard it from Helios, the sun god who sees everything. He sees what he wants to see. It was all so innocent. I deny everything.
No matter. I wanted out of the marriage, and you were my ticket out. I hatched a plan. At dinner one night, I announced that I would be going to Lemnos the next day to work at my forges, and that I would be gone all day. The next day I took off for Lemnos like I always did, knowing that you would turn up as soon as I was gone. When I'd gotten halfway there, Helios told me that you had arrived, and I turned around and doubled back. I snuck back into my palace, and there the two of them were, on my couch together.
Sipping tea! We were sipping tea!
Whatever. I pulled a cord, and a fine chain net fell down upon them that I had woven myself, so cunningly that it was almost invisible to the eye, yet so strong that not even a god could escape it. And then I burst into the room and cried, "Gotcha!" And then I called out and said, "Come, Zeus and all the gods of Olympus, look what I have caught. Slow and lame as I am, I have outdone the mightiest of the gods. See how he struggles against my chains."
I wasn't struggling. I was just sitting there trying to finish my tea.
"See how they consort with each other in my absence," I cried. "They are lovers for sure, and now they have been caught in the act." And the gods came. And they laughed at what they saw.
Yeah, they were laughing at you, not at me. I saw Apollo lean over to Hermes and say, "Hey kid, bet you wish it was you under those chains." And Hermes answered him, "Hey Apollo, even if those chains were 3 times heavier and all the gods of Olympus were standing around watching, I'd climb onto that couch with Aphrodite."
Well, Poseidon wasn't laughing. He came right up to me and said, "Let them go." And I said, "What's in it for me?" And he said, "What do you want?" And I answered, "I want a divorce." Poseidon promised that he would make that happen, and I let the lovers go.
Yeah, but we didn't go together. I went one way, she went another. Aphrodite wasn't one you could tie down, not with chains, not with bonds of love. She loved us all.
Oh, I don't think she loved any of us. I don't believe she even understood what love was all about. Her son Eros was the real god of love. All she really understood, and understood better than any man, woman, or god, were the acts of love.
Yeah, she's the kind of girl you want so much it makes you sorry. Still you can't regret a single day.
Ah, girl.
Yeah, girl.
She's the kind of girl who puts you down when friends are there. You feel a fool.
When you say she's looking good, she acts as if it's understood she's cool.
Cool,
Cool, cool girl.
ah, girl, ah.
Well, those were the gods, and now here is the guy, or the rancher, whose name was Anchises. And because he loved cattle and playing his lyre, I thought that I'd tell it like thissies.
My name is Anchises, and I have a story to tell. All about a goddess who captured me under her spell. Her name's Aphrodite, and she was the goddess of love. There's no greater beauty on earth or in heaven above. Now I'm a cowboy, a cattleman, true born and bred. At the base of Mount Ida is where my big cattle ranch spread. Most days I be out there riding my horse near and far. But this one day I thought I'd just stay home and play my guitar. And as I was playing, there came a soft knock at my door. And as soon as I opened it, tell you folks I was done for. Her dress was all golden and outshone the brightest of fires. And her face and her form just awakened my fondest desires. I said, "Oh, my lady, you must be a nymph or a god Who else is endowed with such beauty? And man, what a bod. I'll build you an altar on top of Mount Ida right now. And once every season, I'll offer you one of my cows. And that's how it started. No fooling, there I was at home on the ranch. The rest of the family and the ranch hands out in the pastures tending the cattle. I just wanted to spend a little alone time with my guitar, and there comes this knock at my door, and I open it, and oh man, I can't even tell you what she looked like. I'd never seen such beauty, all decked out in golden robes with all sorts of embroidery all over them and all these necklaces and diamond earrings in the shape of flowers. And I'm figuring, now this is no mortal girl. She's got to be a goddess. And if I'm being visited by a goddess, I'm probably about to get struck down by lightning because we mortals don't get to look upon goddesses and live to tell about it. So I start crying. I said, don't kill me, whoever you are, Athena or Artemis or one of the nymphs of the mountain or even Aphrodite herself. I'll tell you what, I'll build you an altar on the highest peak around here, and every season I'll offer sacrifices to you. And in return, instead of killing me, you can maybe let me live a long, happy life and have strong, well-mannered children who will become famous throughout Troy. But then she got all demure-like, and she said, oh no, I'm no goddess. I'm just a princess from a far-off land. And I'm all dressed up like this because I was at this dance, having a good time joking with my girlfriends and flirting with the boys when suddenly Hermes, the fleet-footed messenger of the gods, Hermes, the god of thieves, swooped me up and carried me away up over the mountains and over the clouds and over the unplowed land. And I thought that my feet were never going to touch the ground again. And all the while, he's whispering in my ear that there's this guy in Troy, a rancher named Anchises, who has this spread at the base of Mount Ida, and Zeus said that he's the guy I'm supposed to marry and make babies with. So please, she said, go get your father and your mother and your brothers, and let's prepare for a wedding feast. And I said, hold on there, Philly. If you are really a princess like you say you are, and if the gods have told you that I'm supposed to be your husband, oh, who cares about all that? The way you look, you want to marry me? To heck with my father and my mother and my brothers. Let's get married right now. Man, I should have known something was up. No way she was a mortal woman. I mean, looking past her out into the yard, I was seeing deer and foxes and wolves and sheep all rolling around, cavorting with each other. That kind of stuff just don't happen around mortal women. But what can I say? She had me under her spell, and I took her at her word. So I took her by the arm and led her back off into my man cave that was all strewn with bear skins and lion skins and boar skins, all animals I'd killed with my own spear. I mean, a woman's got to be impressed by that, doesn't she? And we got married right then and there. And then I fell asleep. And when I woke up, I opened my eyes and said, hey, pull down the shades, it's blinding in here. And then I realized it wasn't the sun, it was her. And she was so big that her head touched the high arched ceilings of my man cave, and the radiance that came off of her face was so bright that I had to shield my eyes. And she said, how do you like me now, cowboy? And I said, see? I knew you were a god. Didn't I say you were a god right when I opened the door? And you were so beautiful, and you had those glowing robes and all those animals cavorting around behind you. And I said it, didn't I? But you said, oh no, I'm only a princess from a far off land. And she said, yeah, I lied. I'm Aphrodite. And I said, Aphrodite? I never had a chance, and I fell down on my knees before her, and I threw my arms around her ankles, and I begged her, don't kill me. I know how these stories turn out. Mortal man has a relationship with the goddess, and then he's blasted for it, killed or crippled or cursed. Oh, fair Aphrodite, take pity on me as I grovel before you and clasp your divine ankles. Don't do that to me. It wasn't my fault. And even while I'm doing this, I'm thinking, oh boy, groveling is no way to impress a girl. She is going to have no respect for me at all after this. But then she gets all sweet and nice, and she sits down next to me onto the couch, and she says, hey, Anchises, chill out. I know it's not your fault. It's not my fault either. It was Zeus and my own son Eros playing a joke on me. See, I go around all the time making gods fall in love with mortals and mortals fall in love with animals. I don't know, I just get a kick out of it. Everybody gets so upset, but I think it's fun, so Zeus figures I should get a taste of my own medicine, so he hatches a plan with Eros, and who comes to me and he says, "Hey, Mom, let's you and me take a little flying vacation over Troy." And we hadn't spent any good quality time together lately, so I said, sure. And as we flew over Mount Ida, he said, "Hey, Mom, look over there." And I looked, and there you were, herding your cattle, and I didn't think much of it until Eros, while I was looking that way, shot one of his arrows into my heart, and I fell head over heels in love with you, just as so many have fallen for me. And just to be fair, she said, "You're not half bad. You're better looking than some of the gods I know." Well, I was flattered, but she went on. She said, "I've got your baby inside of me. When it's born, I'm going to give it to the mountain nymphs to raise. When he's 5 years old, I'm going to bring him to you. He's going to be one of the greatest heroes of Troy. His name will be Aeneas, and he's going to have children and grandchildren who will go on to found the city of Rome. Your ancestor will be the great Julius Caesar himself." I said, "So you're not going to kill, cripple, or maim me?" And she said, "You know what I like about you, beside the fact that you're such a hunk, is that when you were groveling and begging at my feet, what you asked me for was just to live out a normal life. You didn't ask for immortality like so many mortals do." And I said, "I didn't know immortality was on the table. Maybe I woulda." And she said, "Believe me, you're better off. Immortality just ain't all what it's cracked up to be. Either you live forever and you never change, or you get older and sicker and you never die." "Well, at least you're not going to kill me," I said. And she said, "Well, not so fast. I won't kill you as long as you shut up about what happened here today. Word gets out about us, and I'll be the laughing stock of Mount Olympus. You think you can keep your mouth shut?" And I said, "Who'd believe me anyway? My lips are sealed, and they have been sealed from that day to this. From that day to this, when I have told you the story. Oh man, what got into me? They asked me to come make this video and play a little song, and I guess I just get carried away, and now I've angered the gods, and I hear Zeus's thunder rattling, and there's a flash of light, and slam! I'm crippled. Oh well, it's been a good life, and it was a good story to tell."
That son Venus gave him, Aeneas by name, became a great hero of Troy. And when Troy fell to Greece, still he'd fought with such fame they allowed him to live to his joy. He was exiled, but told he could keep what he had and take it all off with good wishes. He said, "I need nothing except my old dad." And he scooped up old crippled Anchises. And he carried him far, far away from their home, then set him down and took his leisure in the spot that would later be known as Great Rome. His descendant would be Julius Caesar. So Anchises got all of his wishes. Now Venus was loved by her son till the time he defied her, and that was pure stupid. But what could he do? It was love, not a crime. Here's the story as told you by Cupid.
Okay, my mom, right? You ever have trouble with your mom? Okay, so I'm going to tell you my story, and then you're going to appreciate your mom so much. I mean, I love my mother, right? She's funny and smart and always ready for a party or an adventure. She's way cool. I mean, all my buddies, when they come over to the house, they all say, "Man, your mom is so cool." Doesn't hurt that she's the most beautiful woman in the universe either. I mean, she's Venus, right? The goddess of love. Problem with moms is she likes to be worshipped. And not just by men. She wants women to worship her too. In fact, it's mostly women who pray to her. They want success in their relationships. They want to be desirable to their men. And my mom, She can make that happen. As long as you worship her. Forget to worship her, you could be in big trouble. So, one day she comes to me and she says she has this special errand she wants me to run. I love it when she sends me on errands because they always end up with somebody getting all messed up over love. Oh, yeah, y'all know how this works, right? I shoot one of my poison arrows into the heart of somebody, and the first person they set eyes on after that, they fall instantly in love with it. You realize how much power that gives me? I mean, even Jupiter is scared of me. I've done him in a whole bunch of times. I get such a kick out of that. Men, women, gods, nobody is safe from my arrows, and I'm a kid, right? I like to make mischief. And Mom's does too. That's why we get along so well. But this one day, she comes to me and she's really upset. She wants me to go to this certain town where there's this princess, and she wants me to shoot her with an arrow, but she wants me to do it in a way that the first person she sees is like the lowest possible specimen of humanity. Someone with no wealth or status, a man so disreputable that nowhere in the world can he find an equal in wretchedness. And I say, cool, sounds like a normal day's work. And I fly off to the town where this princess lives. And the first thing I see is a big procession going down the street. And at the head of this procession is a girl. And it's not like she's leading the procession like a majorette twirling a baton. No, she looks more like she'd like to just be going to the store and wishes all these people weren't following her. But they are. And not just following her, but strewing rose petals in front of her to walk on, and bringing her gifts and kneeling down before her and begging her to bless them. And this is what they're supposed to be doing to my mom. No wonder my mom's mad. So I figure I better get a better look at this girl. So I fly around in front of her and I look down and, hey, I understood instantly what all the commotion was about. I mean, I thought my mom's was good looking, but it wasn't that she was better looking than my mom, it's that she was human. There was something softer about her beauty, something warmer, something more inviting. And for the first time in my life, I got what this love thing was all about. Yeah, to me, it had always been like a video game, you know, where you can make all this stuff happen, wreak all this havoc, but it never really touches you. But this one touched me. I couldn't take my eyes off of her for the first time in my life. This wasn't a game. I mean, there were plenty of base people around her. I could have shot an arrow at her and she would have fallen for one of them and the procession would have been over and Moms would have been happy, but I couldn't do it. So I did a little research on this girl. Turns out her name was Psyche, and she was a princess, the youngest of 3 daughters of the local king. The other daughters, though nowhere near as beautiful as she was, were already married, but Psyche had no suitors. Nobody wanted to marry her. And that was because everybody was too busy worshiping her to realize that she was just a real girl who just wanted a real life, wanted to settle down with a nice guy and have kids and live happily ever after. And then I found out that her dad, the king, was planning to go to the Oracle of Delphi to find out if his daughter was ever going to find a husband. So I got to the Oracle first. And I told the Oracle to let the old man know that it was going to be me who married his daughter. But I told the Oracle not to use my name because I didn't want my mom to find out. I mean, I was in big trouble here. Not only had I not carried out her orders, I'd fallen for the very girl she hated, and she was mortal. I mean, this is crazy, but I'm used to crazy. I cause crazy all the time with my arrows, but just this time it was happening to me. So the king went to the oracle, and this is what the oracle said. I'll do it the best I can. Renounce all hope, O king, that one of mortal blood shall be your son-in-law. For Psyche shall be wed to a fierce, barbaric, snake-like monster who plagues all living things with poison arrows. This monster is so hideous that even Jupiter fears him. So dress her in wedding gowns of black, and set her on a lofty mountain rock, where he shall come on wings aloft and carry her away. Okay, so you got the wings, right? And Jupiter is afraid of me and the poison arrows, but the snake thing was a little over the top, even for the oracle. Although I've probably been called worse. So what could the king do? You have to obey the oracle or really bad stuff can happen.
They took Psyche up to the top of a mountain, and they left her there. And I sent Zephyrus, the west wind, to carry her to a secluded valley, where I had conjured up a magic palace filled with every comfort imaginable and peopled with invisible servants to wait on her hand and foot. And she was amazed by all of it. She bathed in the finest bath with precious oils and ate a magnificent meal served by invisible hands. And then she was led to her bed. And in the darkness of night I came to her, and she became my bride, though we spoke not a word. And the next day I split before the sun came up and went back to Olympus and pretended like nothing happened. Mom didn't even ask me how my little errand had panned out. She trusted me, and I felt really guilty about the whole thing, but what could I do? I was in love. For the first time, I was feeling like who I really was. I was love, in love. Can you imagine how powerful a love that is? I would look at my mother and think she's supposed to be the goddess of love, but she doesn't have the slightest idea what true love is. So by day, I would hang out with the gods, and every night, under the cover of darkness, I would return to Psyche. She wanted to see my face, but I said, no way I was going to let anybody, not even her, know who I was. No way I was going to take any chance that word might get back to Mom's about my betrayal. I told her that if she ever set eyes upon me, it would be the end of our marriage. Well, a few months went by, and I was thinking everything was peachy, but one day I got home and at night, and Psyche was all sad and crying and stuff, and I asked her what was wrong, and she said that she was worried about her parents and her sisters. They must think she's dead, and she misses them so much, and there's nobody here to talk to except invisible servants all day, and she's lonely, and she goes on, and finally I go, okay, I'll think about it. So I went to observe her sisters, and the next night I told Psyche, listen, I don't trust your sisters. They don't look like happy people to me. They don't seem happy in their marriages, and that's not a good sign. But Psyche cried and begged me to let them come visit. And she promised that there was no way that her sisters could come between us. So I said, okay. I'll have Zephyrus bring your sisters here for a visit. And the next day she got to spend the whole day with her sisters. I figured she'd be in a better mood when I got home that night. And she was, in a way. I mean, she wasn't crying and all, but she was kind of distant. I'd had a long day, so I fell asleep, and I was dreaming sweet, sweet dreams, when suddenly I'm awakened by a searing pain on my shoulder, and I open my eyes, and there's light in the room, and it's coming from an oil lamp in Psyche's hand, and in the other hand, she's holding a long, sharp, double-edged knife. Well, I bolted. I felt so betrayed, probably the way my mom's would feel if she ever found out about all this. I was hurt and scared, and my shoulder was in terrible pain, and I just wanted to get out of there, so I spread my wings, and I flew away. But Psyche grabbed me by one foot, and before I could get out, and she wouldn't let go, but I flew out of the palace anyway, trying to shake her off of me, but not flying too high, because I didn't want to hurt her, even though she had hurt me so deeply. And finally, I shook her off, and she fell to the ground, and I perched in a tree above her. And I said, I knew it. I knew I couldn't trust those sisters of yours. They convinced you that I was a monster, didn't they? They told you to take an oil lamp and a knife so that you could see my ugliness and cut off my head. But I wasn't ugly, was I? And you were shocked, and you spilled the oil and burned me. Is this how you repay my love? After I have disobeyed my mother and made you my bride, after I have treated you so kindly? All I asked was that you let me keep my identity a secret. So go, return to your sisters, whose advice you seem to cherish more than mine. I will inflict no other punishment upon you than to leave you forever. I am love, and love cannot live with suspicion. And I flew away to Mount Olympus and shut myself up in my mother's palace. I was in terrible pain, both my heart, but also my shoulder, where Psyche had spilled the oil. I was nearly delirious with that pain when My mother burst into the door, and she was livid. "I will disempty your quiver and immobilize your arrows," she screamed. "I will unstring your bow, shave your curly locks, and clip your wings. I send you to punish a rival of mine, and not only do you disobey me, you make her my daughter-in-law? How dare you?" "How did you find out?" I asked. "I was swimming in the ocean and a little birdie told me," she said. "Everybody on Olympus knows by now. I'm a laughingstock." I tried to say I was sorry, but she screamed, "You stay here while I go and take vengeance upon that girl you married." And she stormed out and locked me in the room. I don't know how long I was in there, feverish, delirious, in terrible pain, and afraid. I was afraid that she would do everything she could to find Psyche, and I didn't even want to think about what she would do to her. When finally the fever lifted and I felt strong enough to escape that room, I flew out through a crack in the window and went looking for Psyche. Somebody told me that my mother had tortured her and set her to do impossible tasks, saying that if she passed the test, she could be my bride. But each time Psyche completed a task, my mother would set her a harder one, and the last thing she had sent her to do was to go down into Hades and bring back a box filled with beauty. That's when my heart finally broke. If Psyche had gone down into Hades, she was lost to me forever. No human, not even a god, could go into Hades and return alive. But I wasn't going to lose her. My life was worthless without my Psyche. She was my soul. Psyche was the Greek word for soul. I decided that I was going to follow her even to the depths of Hades. But when I got to the gates of Hades, there she was asleep on the ground. She had gone and had miraculously returned. And she had the box of beauty, and she had thought to take a little of the beauty from the box in order to make herself presentable to me, but all that was in the box was sleep. And there she was, beaten, torn, dirty, disheveled, and beautiful. I wiped the sleep out of her eyes and carried her to Olympus. I went straight to Jupiter and begged him to let her be my bride. No, I demanded that he let her be my bride. And remember, Jupiter was a little scared of me, and he also liked me a little bit. I'd gotten him into a lot of trouble, but I'd also gotten him into a lot of pretty fun adventures. So he turned to my mother, Venus, and said, "This girl has proved herself not only to be worthy of the hand of a god in marriage, she has proved herself worthy enough to become a god herself." And Jupiter bestowed immortality upon Psyche and called all the gods together for a great wedding feast. And my mom, well, she does love a party, especially a wedding party. She danced until the cows came home. Well, there you have her, Venus, Aphrodite. I'll leave it to you to debate her. I think we can all agree that she was mighty, but do you just love or just hate her?